I'm going to attempt to model this interesting looking container that I saw in a Reddit post. Along the way, there were quite a few challenges involved. The outer face is composed of a staggered pattern of hemispheres that overlap with each other. The overlapping creates this interesting hexagonal pattern. Another striking feature are these ridges. They follow a continuous straight path from the top to the bottom. At the same time, they conform to the curvature of the hemispheres. Looking at the inside, the shelling process takes into account the volume of the hemispheres. First, roughly estimate the radius of the container that you'll need and create an offset plane the same distance away from the front plane. Begin a sketch on this offset plane. Draw a circle centered on the origin. Draw a line that represents the diameter of the circle. Set the midpoint of this line to coincide with the origin. Convert this to a center line. Begin a solid revolve. The center line is automatically selected as the axis. Select the top half of the profile. Adjust the angle to 180 degrees to get a hemisphere. This hemisphere will serve as the seed. From here, we will need to think about producing the pattern. At this point, we should not be shelling. If we shell at this point, the overlapping shells would cause a problem. It will be very difficult to remove the excess, so we should continue to work with a solid hemisphere. I'm going to use a move copy command to create another hemisphere that is diagonally below the current one. For move object, select bodies and select the hemisphere. We need this copy to be rotated at an angle about the axis of the container. For move type, set to rotate. And select the y-axis. Before adjusting the angle, make sure to check the Create Copy option. Adjust the angle to 15 degrees. We also need to move the copy downwards. Without exiting the Move Copy command, select the Translate option. You can see that the rotation has been saved as a step in the timeline. Translate in a Y direction. Once confirmed, this will be saved as another step. Let's make a circular pattern of these two bodies. Select the two hemispheres. Select the y-axis. Adjust the quantity. Now that we have two tiers of hemispheres, we can simply use a rectangular pattern to complete the rest of the pattern. For type, select Bodies. Box select all bodies. For direction, select the y-axis. Change distance type to spacing. Set the direction type to symmetric. Adjust the quantity and spacing. Do take note that the move values and pattern parameters were decided by me simply eyeballing the pattern and adjusting them during testing. The resultant hexagonal shapes are not geometrically accurate. If any of you watching knows how to calculate the exact values to achieve an accurate hexagonal pattern, do let me know in the comments. Now, I am going to fill up the middle with a solid cylinder. Create a sketch on the top plane. While sketching the circle, you do want to have a slight overlap with the spheres. This is to increase the chances of success during shelling. Perform an extrude. Set the direction to 2 sides. Adjust the distance for both sides such that the cylinder extends slightly beyond the hemispheres. At this point, the pattern's hemispheres are still individual bodies. If we set the operation to join, the cylinder would merge with all the hemispheres and become one single body, thus saving us the trouble of having to combine all the bodies. Perform a shell at this point. Select the top face of the container to open up. If the shell fails, I would suggest to slightly increase the size of the cylinder in the middle. You would almost need the cylinder to slightly emerge in between the hemispheres. Otherwise, the shell would struggle at these points. Let's move on to create the ridges. I'm going to use a move copy command to create a copy. Select the body. Check on Create a Copy. Confirm the command without moving. Let's rename and hide the original. Go to Modify, Offset Face. We want to select all the outside faces of this copy, except for the base. Before we do that, go to Select, Selection Filters, and remove the Select Through option. This is so that we can box select without selecting the interior faces. Let's note normal to the front plane and box select from left to right, making sure all faces fall within the selection box. If we look normal to the back, some of the faces have not been selected. In this case, we want to use a box select method from right to left. Any faces that overlap with the box will be selected. Select any of the remaining faces. Adjust the offset distance according to how deep you need the ridges to be. Begin a sketch on the front plane. And draw a vertical line in the middle. I'm going to perform a thin extrude with this line. Adjust the wall thickness and wall location. This determines a gap between two ridge lines. Set the operation to cut. I would advise to set a distance, instead of using the true or extent option. This is to ease the computation process of the pattern. Perform a circular pattern of this extruded cut. Set type to features and select the extruded cut from the timeline. Select the y-axis. Adjust the quantity. Set the compute option to identical. Bring back the original body. Go to Modify, Combine. Select the original as a target body. Box select the rest of the bodies and join them into one single body.